Okay, hello everybody. My name is Piotr and we're recording this for the Sitrep podcast. We are going to talk today about Team Yankee in overall and how it looks in Poland, the state of the game in Poland. And today I'm joined by my friend Arek, known in the community by the nickname Lex Inserta. Hello Arek, how are you today?
Hello Peter and hello everybody. I'm happy to be here and I'm okay. Hope you are fine too.
Yeah, I'm fine too. I just got my ass kicked in a game of 75 points. Team Yankee, my French, surrendered to fight another day because they don't die, and your Czechoslovakians did pretty well. How do you feel about our today's game?
The thing was that you wanted to try to defend. Defend is always harder. And with the terrain, how it was placed, and the mission which I got, which is dogfight. Dogfight isn't easy for the defender, and I use all the tools I've got. You've seen how Danas work. I also tested them for the first time. I'm very happy with their performance. And it was just a rush on the objective, and it went through before your reserves came. The first reserve went perfectly in my killing zone, crossfire, and died. So after this, the game was already closed.
Yeah, that's true. And you were playing two tank companies, so to speak?
Battalions, yeah.
Two tank battalions, sorry. I was having two platoons of infantry and a lot of reserves when it comes to Gazelle helicopters with anti-tank missiles and 20mm guns. They never reached the battlefield because, they were delayed drinking wine at the airfield. On the other hand, my tanks came in on the last round. They got killed, but managed to take 3 of your T-72s with them. My Mirages came and managed to destroy some of your tanks in my first round. But that's it. It was a massacre, well-deserved win for Arek. Anyway, we attended a tournament in Poznan, Poland this weekend, and it was a 14-player tournament. One guy didn't show up, so there were 13 of us playing at the spot called Warband, yes. And sadly, we want to mention the shop because it's a very nice place, but it's closing. So this was the last tournament when it comes to Team Yankee in Poznan at this venue. Really cool place with a great owner, and the tournament organizer was, I believe, Ajax, yes?
Ajax, yes.
And it was a 70-point tournament, 2 hours per game. Arek finished on the second place, despite that he lost the first game because he's a cheater. And I ended up 8th. And I believe we can skip through our games. So how did your games go, Arek?
So the first game, which I lost because I didn't cheat good enough, it was against a mechanized West German infantry. So we both took attack as our stance. We got the counter-attack, so it was already bad for the one which would defend. I lost the role for the attack, so I got to defend with delayed reserves. And my opponent was lucky enough with his rush list to get the night. So we played dawn. So we started at night, and he was able to rush my objective. I was running a Soviet wheeled infantry list with minimal infantry units with Spigots, T-80s which were shock and were in reserve and never came, and T-62 tank battalion as a second formation. I'm held for 3 turns through his assaults, killing his HQ, but finally not only he killed my tanks because I couldn't hit anything, and he took the objective by pushing me out onto turn 4, which resulted in a 7-2. A deserved win for my opponent, but all the stars aligned just perfectly. And
yeah, I have seen some part of Arek's game because I lost my first game in, I believe, 40 minutes counting in. our deployment against the tournament organizer. Fair win 8-1 for him, of course. He just rushed with his warriors because he was playing the British. I of course was playing the French. It was Battle of the Canal, and the damn British warriors won this time. So he rushed me, and in the first turn he killed half of my infantry holding the objective. I had to back off. In the second turn he assaulted, killing everything that was in place, so basically I was dead. And then I went down to see how Arek was doing, and despite what he was saying, it wasn't that bad, but his rolls were terrible. You were rolling only once and twos almost all the time. You couldn't kill anything.
Yeah, the plan was because on the flank, which was hard pressed by the opponent, he had 7 murders too. It was HQ inside, and 3 empty transports of each platoon of the mechanized infantry, and only 3 Leo ones. He had a Canadian list as a allied list. So the plan was to destroy the Leopards, because when I had there in ambush a unit of T-62s, 3 tanks, and when I would destroy them, I could just hold the objective by solely my tanks, to which the Marders couldn't do almost anything. But it happened so that I failed all my firepower checks with my spigots. He remounted all his tanks and killed all my tanks. And from there it was a downhill battle, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. That was terrifying. So we both lost our first games. And then my second game was dogfight. I was playing against the Russians with some T-80s and 2 platoons of infantry, wheeled infantry. And I was on the attack during daylight. So I was doing some damage to his units, but I couldn't get a grip of the objective because we ran out of time. Jacek is really good at managing time, so he, stole the game for the 45 minutes. So that's a joke, of course, but he was defending nicely. If I had more time, I think I could have gotten away with a win, but we had a draw. I can't remember the score, but I believe it was 3-2. And how about you, Arek? How your second game went?
I was facing it was the funny US list, which came also second in our tournament in Szczecin, which we had like 3 months ago, and it was I think it's called a light attack company with the RDV G.I. Joe tanks. With 3 platoons and an HQ of 2 G.I. Joe tanks. He had also not warrior, it was Bradley Infantry Company with minimal platoons, and that was mostly it. He has also the Yorks, so plenty of experimental equipment, which we will talk about later. And we were playing Scouts Out. I was happy enough to roll for the attacker, so I chose diagonal. So my opponent had a really bad quarter to deploy in, with almost no cover, and I were able to position my spigots in 2 turns in upper building stores, in upper sides of the buildings, so I could shoot him with impunity without short concealment. It lasted 4 turns when I broke his first company. I also were happy enough to get his, in the first turn with my T-62s, clear shots into his Bradleys, killing 2 of them. I lost 1 tank platoon in return, and then I just pushed forward on the second objective with my sole HQ with alter BTR 60s, so he couldn't kill them, and my opponent was cautious enough to just kill as much platoons as he could, as he know he was losing, and it ended in a 6-3.
So nice. And the last game of the tournament, so round 3, so to speak, I was facing off against the British. again, actually. But I was on the attack this time again. And it went so bad for the British. I must say that the route to the canal was taken again by the French, because my mirages came, I believe, 5 out of 6 times, and they managed to range in 4 out of 5. And basically what I can say that my opponent lost all of his vehicles. Tanks, armored cars, anti-aircraft guns, artillery, everything. I just could not kill his goddamn Queen's infantry that was holding the objective. And that's why we had another draw. But the moment I killed his marksman tanks, it was basically over, because I was shooting without any fear of losing my Gazelle helicopters and my Mirage airplanes, just wreaking havoc upon his army. However, he was having some good rolls when it comes to saves on his infantry, and that's why I couldn't even pin them, because he unpinned each turn. And I lost only one platoon of AMX-10 RC cars, and that's it. We finished 3-1. And how about you, Arek, your last game?
So my last game was against a M60 tank company, US M60 tank company, with a Humvee company, the small ones.
Marines.
I think it was Marines, but I'm not certain, because I don't know the US list that well. And we fought in a fair fight. So we had everything on the table. We deployed one platoon after another, as it in this mission is. But the most important role was who was the attacker. And I was, again, fortunate enough to be the attacker. So immediately I told him we fight in the daylight, because if I would have to fight him with his thermal imaging M60s, I would be dead. I couldn't even try to attack. My opponent was very cautious of the T-80s, which he couldn't penetrate from the front, apart from some tow Humvees, which had tow 2s. I managed to avoid his tows from the most of the game and killed them. He only scored 2 hits, which I saved with front armor 20. And in the first turn I killed one M60 platoon. I was able to position one of the objectives so I could overwatch it with one of the infantry with Spigots. And he tried to hold this objective, but I rolled all my T-62s but one platoon backed by T-80s. He weren't able to kill them in one turn. So I have many Bale tanks, but one of the tanks which were starting at the objective he couldn't kill, so he had to blitz his HQ out of the forest to contest it. So the only thing I had to do was kill his HQ, and this was game over because I took the objective, and I even passed all my last stands, as the Soviets have 3+ last stands, so they are tough to get out of the table. Unless you kill them, yes?
They are highly motivated by the commissars in the back. Anyway, we have to thank once again to the tournament organizers. Beautiful tables, great venue. Sadly, it's closing, but it was and basically still is a great place. And about Team Yankee in Poland, how do you think the state of the game looks at our country? Because in a few months back, actually there weren't too many active players, I believe. And now we have a lot of tournaments. There's quite a number of players, I believe, even here in Szczecin, and you even took the game to your hometown, Gorzów. Mm-hmm. So basically, how do you think it looks in Poland? Because many of you don't know, if anyone knows, that Arek is playing Flames of War and Team Yankee for a long, long time. So he has a few stories to tell us.
Okay, so maybe first I will start with the last part. I'm playing Flames of War since the start of 3rd edition. I think it was 2009. Since then I play all the time with different periods. I enjoyed most as the mid-war, part, and also the early war, which I think was the best balanced part of the game on V3. I never like late war, but it's more my bias because I like the diversity in the game, and I think that it was really shoehorned to just 4 factions, which were the main ones, and how the list building looked for the other minor nations. It was really hard sometimes to get a list which could compete, and it was also too infantry focused for me, but in mid-war it was okay. In early war it was great because it was like the reverse position when the Germans, which are in late war the high-tech army, had to face with their little tanks the Char 1B or other funny things like the KV or the heavier Soviet tanks of the early war. And I think that every nation, even from the earlier books, could have a go against any list, even from the Barbarossa books, and this was just extremely fun, especially with the armored trains and etc. Like cavalry lists, which normally looks like an anachronism, but it worked and it was fun for the players. So this is about the Flames of War. About Team Yankee, I played Team Yankee since the start. It was an easy jump for me because I was also playing Fate of the Nation because I always wanted to field a Syrian army, which I just like the theme of first the Desert Warfare. We have Italians for my mid-war army, and I wanted to also try the Syrian. I fell in love when I first saw the TT55 model. It was just I had to have it.
Oh yeah, it's a beauty.
Yeah, so this was the start, and then when the Team Yankee started off, I just wanted to increase my Syrian army just by fielding the Soviet lists in Syrian camo. And this is how it started. Then it was the Czechoslovak list because it was more like the Syrians with the T-55s. And then I finally got to play the Syrians when they got their book. And I think that this is a great army. And it was the first of the many.
Oh yes, because how many armies do you have, Arek?
I think it's 6 already.
And how many are in the process of making?
I don't have anything till the next plant, I hope.
But you got the Polish cards.
I know.
So Arek will be having 7 or 8 armies soon when it comes to Team Yankee. And how about the state of the game in Poland? How many players are active, and do you feel that the system is, flourishing or not really? Because when it comes to Battlefront games, Flames of War, of course, and Team Yankee, because they are the only ones active now, I believe. Fate of a Nation or NAM just didn't start over here, really. How do you feel that are we going to see more and more players and tournaments in the near future? How do you predict?
Okay, first I have to make a shout out to a shop which is from Wrocław, without which we wouldn't have Team Yankee in Poland, because there were some players which started, but without tournaments the scene isn't integrated enough, and without going to other cities and playing other players and getting the base bigger, it wouldn't work. And it was like this, that in Szczecin we had only 2 players. We just started and played each other only. We liked it. But without the tournaments which Bolter and their support to the game, the shop is called Bolter from Wrocław, and without this, the state wouldn't be as good as it is now, and it's getting better now. Something that which helped with Team Yankee was the team. And also that some problems with the Flames of War after the edition change. That not everyone liked it, and not everyone jumped immediately on the bandwagon of the new edition, especially as as what you could choose as your forces was very limited at the time. So then people started trying Team Yankee, and it was, as a comparison to Flames of War, more dynamic. Even if it was also very small at the beginning, it was more dynamic. The thing is about Team Yankee is also that it's more a combined arms game. For example, the aircraft part of the game is integral part. It's not like in Flames of War where you can just ignore the planes because they are not effective enough. Apart from some maybe gun platforms like the Henshells. Here the aircraft are integral part. They sport up one of the best anti-tank weapons. They are very mobile. They have extra rules. You can transport infantry, airlift it, and by this, and also how lethal the aircrafts are with bomblets, with rockets, which can destroy even the heaviest tank with ease. So by this, everyone has to also take into consideration taking some AA. AA is more relevant, and the whole system as an army works as one machine. So all parts work together, and this is the synergy, not that you spam one type of the vehicle. Some people try to spam tanks, to spam infantry, but it didn't work that well for different reasons. Maybe we'll talk about this later. And also, the sad thing is that a lot of players just wanted to keep Team Yankee, check Team Yankee late time due to what is going on in Ukraine. So it brought interest also to the Cold War period because most of the equipment there is not that new and yeah.
That's true.